A few years back, I visited the Western Wall with my young son Teague. We didn't go for spiritual reasons. It was just a historical checkbox, another proverbial notch on the travel belt. But standing there, surrounded by men swaying, praying, crying, with hands folded together, pressing notes into the stones of the wall, I felt something. Not faith exactly, but the weight of the belief, of their belief, the sheer dedication, like I'd stepped into someone else's holy dream. A few minutes later, I met up with my wife, who'd taken our daughter, Delaney, Teague's twin, to the women's side of the wall. She walked up, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Well, that sucked." While Teague and I were in the wide, pristine male section, complete with ablution fountains and elbow room, she and Delaney had been crammed into a narrow sliver of space, half blocked by scaffolding and a walkway to the Temple Mount, designed in a way that leaves no doubt men belong, women are permitted. Apparently, even in the shadow of the divine, some men think God has a VIP section and they've reserved it for themselves. Welcome to Around the World of Faith, where today we're visiting Jerusalem and the old city behind the walls, discussing the gender divide at the Western Wall. So what exactly is this wall we're all crowding around, photographing, weeping on, putting notes in, or arguing about? The Western Wall, also known as the Wailing Wall, isn't part of the temple itself. It's a retaining wall, a support structure, which feels strangely ironic, doesn't it? If not poetic. The holiest place in Judaism is a structural support, not for the Jewish temple, but for the mosques that now sit above it. They rest on the mount on the other side of this wall, where the ground is just a few feet from the top. This is the mount that once propped up the second temple, expanded by Herod the Great, the same Roman-appointed king who ruled Judea during the time of Jesus. The first temple, attributed to Solomon, was destroyed around the 6th century BCE, likely during the Babylonian conquest. The second temple stood for centuries until it was razed by the Romans in 70 CE, during the First Jewish-Roman War, a generation after Jesus walked those same streets and preached in that very temple. And now, the temple is gone, but the hilltop is far from empty. Today, it's home to two of the most important sites in Islam, the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the glittering Dome of the Rock, arguably the most photogenic holy building in the world. Here's my wife, Michaela, standing at the cup fountain, Al-Qas, a row of public faucets just outside Al-Aqsa, where worshipers perform ritual washing before prayer, cleansing hands, feet, and faces. And here's the part that stopped me cold. She's standing on the exact spot where the holiest of holies once stood, the most sacred space in all of Judaism. The place where only the high priest entered, and only once a year, to speak directly with God. The place where the Ark of the Covenant, the remnants of Moses' 10 Commandments, were held. Now, it's a place for washing feet, which makes you wonder, what makes ground sacred? Is it the presence of God, or the power to say it's your ground and your God? So let's recap. The holiest site in Judaism is now overseen by Islam. The most sacred space in Jewish tradition now lies beneath the mosque, monuments, and centuries of Islamic prayer. And three of the world's most influential religions continue to bump elbows, sometimes literally, on one crowded hill. It's almost as if God checked out of this one a long time ago. Or he's wondering, is this all a bad dream? Or maybe he's got one hell of a sense of humor. Before entering, Teague and I gave a quick rinse at the nearby fountain, more mimicry than ritual, but it felt like the right thing to do. We each grabbed a flimsy paper kippah from a stack and pressed it on, a gesture of borrowed reverence. Then we were in, just there. No sermon, no liturgy, no instructions, just a wall and a crowd of men, some swaying, some whispering, some standing still with their hands on stone. A range of devotion spoken in different postures, different silences. Teague and I didn't have formal prayers to insert, but we wrote notes anyway. I didn't ask him what was in his. I felt it was private. Same with mine, and I'm not telling you. But I'll admit this. As I pressed that scrap of paper into the stone, I felt something. A stillness, maybe reverence, maybe just dust in my eye, but it felt real. When we reunited, Michaela's face said it all. She looked at me and said, "That sucked." Delaney, bless her, just laughed. Even at her age, she must have recognized how lopsided it all was. The men got the full wall, the women got a corner. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't temporary. It was designed, justified, normalized. And it's not unique to this wall or this religion. If that gender divide at the Western Wall felt jarring, maybe even medieval, it's not that Jerusalem is behind the times, it's that religion is. Take Orthodox Judaism. In traditional synagogues, men and women are separated by a mekitzah, a physical barrier designed to keep the genders focused during prayer. Which sounds reasonable until you realize only one gender gets a good look at the Torah. And if you have to ask which one, you are probably male. Many synagogues today have ditched the dividers. But that shift took time, with plenty of resistance, because as with all religious change, it's not about what makes sense, it's about what doesn't threaten the structure. And Christianity, it's got receipts too. The Apostle Paul, one of the original spiritual influencers, had this hot take. Women should remain silent in the churches, not just quiet, silent. In Catholicism, women aren't allowed to be ordained priests. The official reason? The Pope and the Church say that Jesus chose only men as his apostles, and that's the precedent the Church must follow. 2,000 years later, women are still banned from the priesthood based on a decision made in a time when women had little voice in anything, let alone in theology. When questioned, modern pastors often assure us that it's not sexism, it's tradition, because apparently tradition is a powerful tool to protect a system that feels right to some but leaves a lot of us questioning. Across religions, gender roles aren't just present, they're sacred, codified, enforced, defended. Apparently, the all-powerful creator of the universe is concerned with who gets to stand or sit where, but not so much with whether those who lead have the same passion, potential, or intelligence. What happened at the Western Wall wasn't some weird coincidence. It's part of a much older story where men get the spotlight and women get the back row seat. Let's not pretend this is just a Western religion problem. Across the world, it seems like men who claim to speak for God have a certain type, and it's usually male, middle-aged, and obsessed with control. In Islam, men and women pray separately. Men lead the prayer in front. Women either pray behind them or in a separate room entirely. Why? Well, apparently God needs men to be focused, and women might distract them. Never mind that God created women in the nude, but apparently he doesn't want men looking at their ankles. Some Hindu temples restrict women from entering certain parts of the temple during menstruation based on beliefs about ritual purity. So it's not because women are impure, but because, well, apparently they're impure temporarily for a few days a month. Buddhism technically allows women to become monks, but here's the catch. They do so with fewer rights, less status, and an endless list of chores. So much for enlightenment, right? In Mormonism, only men hold the priesthood. Women, well, they're expected to support them spiritually, organizationally, and quietly. You know, the whole behind every great man thing, just without the credit. In Shinto, Women are sometimes barred from sacred spaces during menstruation also. Why? Because the men don't believe the gods want to be around nature's cycle, even though they're the same gods people pray to for fertility and new life. Different gods, different names, same blueprint. Men lead, women follow. Men speak, women listen. Men enter, women wait outside. History suggests it's not God who shut women out of sacred space, it's the ones who claim to speak for him. So I stood there with my son Teague at a wall built thousands of years ago, stones laid by empire, held up by ritual, and now filled, literally filled, with prayers, hopes, pleas, confessions, folded and faded, wedged between blocks. Some of them written this week, some may be written in tears, some never read by anyone except perhaps something greater. The experience was a bit tarnished, the systems compromised, the gender divide was insulting, the whole setup felt like a male-dominated hierarchy dressed in holiness, but the faith underneath it, still, somehow, worth something. It's a strange thing to feel moved by a place that also feels unfair, to feel awe and aggravation at the same time, but that's what it means to be human. And maybe that's what it means to believe, too. Religious institutions are human, flawed, biased, built with the wrong priorities. But faith, real faith, is what survives the cracks in those stones. You don't have to throw it all away. You don't have to have a temple or a priest or a pew to believe in something greater, something truer, something yours. Maybe faith isn't found in holy buildings, but in trying to build something better with the people we love, even when the floor plan is deeply imperfect. Thank you.